affordable housing is diminishing.
Yeah.
From a ratio perspective, if you're running apples to apples in terms of what affordability has done, incomes have not increased to the degree that home prices have.
Real estate will go through its, growing pains over the next couple of years. Everything's innovating. Elon Musk says, like, basically, you're asking the wrong questions, right? If you're trying to make a process more efficient that shouldn't exist, then you're wasting your time.
Zillow and Redfin, now they did an alignment on new home building. Now, recently, within the last week, they've done an alignment on multifamily. What's going on with Zillow and Redfin? Should we be worried?
I think it's a footprint thing for Zillow. Zillow is making sure that their ecosystem is the ecosystem. For the first time since 2009, over 50% of the buyers were first-time home buyers.
I knew it.
Over 50%. Yeah. That's huge.
That's huge. All right, we've got a lot to talk about. There's so much going on in the real estate world. Let's dig in. By the way, make sure you like and subscribe to the Agent Bridge wherever you listen. And give us a comment. Let us know what's going on and what you'd like to hear from us. So let's jump in. One of the things that I wanted to talk about, because we've got a lot, it feels like a rapid fire with changes in the real estate industry. At the top of the list, Keller Williams. And the perception is, Keller Williams has sold out to Stone Point Capital. But do you have a sense of what really happened there and why it's happening? I have some thoughts, but I'm just curious to get yours.
I think they just needed an influx of capital.
Yeah.
I think that's exactly what they needed. Real estate's changing. But the NAR settlement probably didn't do as much as people thought it might, or at least hasn't yet.
Sure.
But there's so many technology players entering the space, and I think somebody's looking to innovate the industry, and I don't even know that we know exactly where it's going to go over the next 5 years, but I know it's going to be likely a lot more that changes over the next 5 years, and I think they just want to invest some capital to try to get ahead of it.
I guess my thought is, with Keller Williams being such a humongous organization, I think they're at 150,000 realtors, so they're the largest sort of like, or maybe not the largest, but they're a large privately owned company that hasn't gone the route of the sort of anywhere, which is
like the Compass.
Yeah, sort of the conglomerates.
The EXPs.
And my sense, though, is that to continue to play and to do the technology that they need to do, to stay on top of innovation, that they needed an influx of cash. And that ship is a big ship to turn, especially when you don't have a ton of revenue pouring in, because we know agent sales were down last year and 75%. So when you're that big, if you have 75% of real estate agents that didn't sell a single house last year,
yeah, those dollars are big, and
that's going to be massive in terms of a Keller Williams. And so they're like, hey, we want to be a player here, but we're going to need an influx of cash. And I imagine now we don't have disclosed the terms of that deal, but I imagine that they had to give up a share of ownership for that influx of capital.
Yeah, certainly,
no question. Yeah. But it's a really interesting turn, and I think it's probably showing where we're at in terms of a real estate era and where we're going. And I don't know. I mean, how much it just takes a lot of capital play at that level.
I mean, it's somewhat nice to see that you have this investment firm that's willing to, put all this capital into Keller Williams,
right?
That they believe in real estate moving forward. You have people like Compass, and Compass is a real estate firm. So you see them buying up like local firms here, and you're like, all right, well, they're already in real estate. So that makes a lot of sense. But when you have, when you have somebody like an investment firm that puts cash into a business, that's, obviously they believe in it, which is great.
Again, traditional split models. You're seeing that they're kind of playing. So like one of the things that Compass did is they said, okay, well, we're going to have exclusive Compass listings, and you've got to be a Compass agent. Now, that's a violation of clear cooperation in terms of an NAR deal. So there may be some stuff going in the back end there. It's hard to sort of decipher all the moves that everyone is making, but it definitely is a change. It's a time for change in the industry. And it's just interesting to see how all of those things are playing out and how companies are trying new things to sort of increase profitability and be a player in the new world. But I do think that there is an era shift in real estate. And we're seeing that also with like teams, real estate teams. Now, when I was coming up in this business, that wasn't really a big thing. But as internet leads started to become a deal. Zillow started dishing these things out. Redfin, I remember when Redfin first came in the market and 4% listings, we thought we were all out of business. And regardless, that you've seen Zillow and Redfin and all of these big companies kind of get in and play, and they're innovating. And it's just interesting to see what's happening. But again, real estate teams weren't really a thing like they are now, and now they're just rocking.
Yeah, I mean, I think people are going to continue to try new things, right?
Sure.
It's just one of those deals where mortgage went through its disruption a couple years back.
Mm-hmm.
A bunch of mortgage brokers left the business thinking they weren't going to make any money anymore, and there's still plenty of opportunity. Title's undergoing some big changes right now, and I think it will continue to do so over the next couple of years. Real estate will go through its growing pains over the next couple of years. Everything's innovating, and you hear people like Elon Musk, and he doesn't have anything to say about real estate really, but Elon Musk says, like, if basically you're asking the wrong questions, right? So like if you're trying to make a process more efficient that shouldn't exist, then you're wasting your time. Like, you should really just eliminate it. And I think there's probably some fluff in some areas that could be eliminated. I'm not talking about agents. I think I think people largely want the largest purchase in their life to be done between human beings for now. And so I'm not saying people are going to get eliminated, but there might be pieces of the puzzle that get more streamlined.
One of the most interesting things to me about this Keller Williams move is that there are a ton of Keller Williams agents that are going, oh, well, I guess I need to find a new brokerage now. Which I don't know what would precipitate that, because if you're taking on an investor or a capital, or you're doing sort of a modified capital acquisition, for a typical real estate agent, how does that change their life? It doesn't.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like, I don't understand why that would be the reason that a Keller Williams agent would leave. However, I do think that movement for a real estate agent who's looking for proper leadership needs to happen. Right. So it's like, okay, well, if you're thinking about moving brokerages as a real estate agent, that's fine, but don't do it because of some capital acquisition. Do it because you need fresh leadership or new leadership or alignment with a leader that can help you get where you want to go, not because of something that happens at the very top of the company that doesn't really affect your life.
Yeah. And, I mean, I think that's true in any industry, right? Like, so you see like a company gets acquired, people freak out and they leave not knowing people don't like change largely. So they're like, I got to get out of here. But usually what happens is not a lot at those levels. Like, at the top level, I'm sure a lot changes, but the further down you go, it's just not that much different.
To me, it just seemed like Gary Keller was like, hey, he's making a move for the sake of his company, wanting to be innovative. And you can't turn a ship like that very fast without a ton of capital, because there's just a lot of moving parts. And so you just need an influx. And, but again, for the typical real estate agent, I don't know how that affects them. I
mean, as a real estate agent, you're a 1099 anyway. Like you kind of doing your own thing. Now, I'm not saying that brokerages don't differentiate themselves from each other and there's better or worse brokerages. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying, like, largely it doesn't matter to you. Like, wherever you go, your business is your business. Like, you need a good leader and you need to do the daily activities you need to be doing. Outside of that, then not a lot different.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so let's talk about another thing that's happened in the real estate world, which is Zillow and Redfin. Now, back this past summer, they did an alignment on new home building.
Mm-hmm.
Now, recently, within the last week, they've done an alignment on multifamily. So do you have, what's going on with Zillow and Redfin? Should we be worried? Is this a sort of like, takeover of some point? What's your sort of?
No, I mean, I think it's a footprint thing for Zillow. Sure. I mean, the larger the footprint, the more people are going to utilize their services, and they want to be they've made it clear. They want to be a brokerage. They want to be a title company. They want to be a mortgage company. Yep. They want to get into the rental market. They want people to use their platform to find whatever piece of property they're going to next, whether it's a rental or a home. Mm-hmm. And with this larger footprint, it makes it a lot easier. So to me, it's like, Zillow's making sure that their ecosystem is the ecosystem. Sure. And honestly, good on Zillow, because typically what happens is you find something that is the biggest player in that space, whether it's home search or whatever, and they don't innovate and they don't change and they die off, and then the next one comes up. Sure. But they're trying new things. And I mean, everybody's got their own feelings about Zillow. I mean, there's pieces of Zillow that I don't like, and there's pieces of Zillow that I find are really convenient. But they're trying new things, and they're trying to make their platform more desirable for people when they're searching, and that's what they're doing.
Yeah, it's just been fascinating to watch, the alignments that they've done even over the past few years with like Follow Up Boss and sort of acquisition of Dot Loop. So, Zillow, they've made it abundantly clear that they want to be a player from start to finish. And honestly, they've done a good job of it. Yeah, they did the Zillow, home offers thing, and that kind of tanked. But in terms of, having an ISA department, in terms of management of data, in terms of, all of those things, they've obviously shown that they're a player in this space, and they're moving in directions. And I think there was a time where, I think real estate agents may have felt like, do I need to be worried about Zillow? And I think that time is gone. I think they're just here. And so you're going to have to work with them or work around them, but that's just a reality of.
Yeah, I think the more they insert themselves in the intricate natures of real estate, like title, mortgage, and actually being an agent, I think that's where they seem to stumble. Like the Zillow, the buy your house thing kind of tanked because they realized the process is too complex, and the algorithms don't work very well in neighborhoods that don't transact a lot, and so they lost their butt on a bunch of stuff. But honestly, like, I've seen title work get screwed up. I've seen mortgage pre-approvals that are way off. And I've seen when they try to act as the agent, they fumble. So like those are the pieces that I think they need to leave to the professionals. But everything else, I think they do a great job at. Like
I know I kind of hate to say it, but it's true. I mean, in terms of like turning over buyers and sellers and working their ISA department and I mean, there are a lot of things they do really well.
I mean, if you're looking at a piece of property that's outside of your MLS, where do you go?
Zillow.
Exactly.
No question.
Like, I mean, like, let's say I want to look at a property at the beach. Like maybe I want to buy a house at the beach. I'm not going to Flex MLS because I don't have access. I'm going to Zillow, and and I find all the same stuff. Now, it's sometimes it can be a little convoluted. The Zestimate thing is weird, but there's a lot that they do, I think, really well.
Well, I would say, if you want to be upset at anybody, be upset at realtor.com because they didn't play at that level soon enough, right? They didn't see the innovation that was happening and rise. And maybe somebody at realtor.com would disagree with me about this, but Zillow became the household name.
Yeah,
home search,
and they
not
did
realtor.com.
They did it because, people like NAR and MLSs and everything wasn't willing to share the data or weren't willing to share the data. Like you don't share the data and consumers want access to it, somebody else is going to find a way.
Yeah, now homes.com is coming on the scene.
Yeah.
And they're trying to make waves. We saw Super Bowl commercials and stuff like that. But anyway, in terms of, it's hard to say that Zillow did a bad job. They've done a great job of
Super Bowl commercials last year, not this year. I was surprised that they didn't spend as much money this year.
Homes.com? Yeah, they did have a deal, but
just not nearly as
much
much money. Yeah,
they were probably running a little tight because realtors aren't selling houses as many houses right now. So yeah, the other thing that I wanted to talk about is Zillow's move towards the multifamily with Redfin. Do you think that has anything to do with affordable housing? Because I know that, I asked a question on Facebook yesterday. I was like, hey, do you think affordable housing is gone? Or do you think that that people are just wanting bigger houses now? And you could probably make the argument that it's a little bit of both, but there was some really good data that came out of that online conversation, which was, affordable housing is diminishing from a ratio perspective.
Yeah, rentals are too, as far as like affordability is concerned. I just think I don't know that multifamily had necessarily, I don't know that it had anything to necessarily do with affordable housing. I personally think it was more about footprint, but sure. I'm sure they just want their hand on the entire pie, right? Not just
from
pieces
start to
of
finish,
it.
From just where people are going to live.
Yeah, where people are going to live, period. Yeah. And I think that was the best way to do that. Bottom line.
Yeah, no question. It was the interesting thing about the affordable housing and there's a little bit for me. I'm like, look, I live in a much bigger house than the one that I grew up in, and the house that my grandparents built for their family of 11 kids is smaller than the house that I live in now. So I have some anecdotal evidence. I'm like, hey, are we just buying bigger houses, or we want bigger houses? But if you're running apples to apples in terms of what affordability has done, incomes have not increased to the degree that home prices have.
Yeah.
That's the main
the main thing, which is also why the fact that our grandparents had 18% mortgages is not as impactful as 6% is now, because of that income to house price gap.
Yes.
That's the reason.
Yeah.
Bottom line. I shared a graphic in your post, and I had actually shared this separately, and a bunch of people, kind of made some comments that didn't. So I want to preface it by saying, like, pre-COVID, the average, this is nationwide, the average household income required to buy a home, and keep in mind, this is to buy a home comfortably, like where you're only spending 30% of your income on housing, things like that, was $51,000.
Yeah.
Now nationwide, it's like $97,000. The income required to comfortably buy a home nationwide. That's crazy. In a couple years, that's how much it's increased. And incomes haven't gone up. Nobody's getting like 50, 60, 70% raises.
Sure. That's right.
What do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, exactly. So here's a question. So anytime I run up against something like this, and I'm putting you on the spot here, when you run up against affordability issues, where do you think the opportunity is? I always look at, like, what does this make possible? Where do you think the opportunity might be as affordability is shrinking for a real estate agent or for a real estate investor? Where do you feel like the opportunity is?
Well, I think that's why all these industries are getting disrupted. I think that's why, they're trying to push title expenses down. Like title work in a transaction is a very large portion of the closing costs.
Yeah.
People always put it on the lender or but it's a lot of it's title work. A lot of it's municipalities doing transfer taxes, things like that. So, like, a lot of that's getting pushed down or trying to. I think, people like the CFPB and things like that have done things to keep, mortgage brokers and lenders from making a certain amount of money, keep that in check. So that's getting pushed down. I think, agents it's been trending down from an income perspective. I think all of it, that's the angle they're taking. But I think in reality, as long as the demand is there and the house prices go up and the incomes don't go up, commensurate with the house prices, we're going to have this problem.
What I think about is, like, I always think about small towns and the rejuvenation of small towns, because, as house prices go up towards sort of the center of, a city or a metropolitan area, I think affordability pushes people into more of a small town, and especially with the internet and remote work and things like that, I think we're going to see a resurgence in small towns.
Oh, we already have here.
Yeah.
I mean, no question. People, look, I'm from here. The unicorn is what they call us, the people from Nashville, because nobody's from Nashville, right?
Right.
Well, I had literally never heard the town Spring Hill. Never heard of it.
Really?
Now it's massive.
You're kidding.
I didn't even know it existed.
Okay.
So now, it's massive here. I knew Franklin, Brentwood, Antioch, and Nashville. That's what I knew. And now you have all these, like, and Belmead and stuff like that. But now you have, like, Murfreesboro's blown up. Murfreesboro has blown up. Smyrna, didn't even know what that was.
Yeah.
Laverne, like all these different
Manchester,
Columbia. Like, all I knew is Columbia was really far out in the country and had a mule day. That's all I knew.
Sure.
Thompson Station. Yeah, I don't even think that was on the map.
Sure. It probably wasn't.
Just stuff like that. And so it's already happening. So everything's already pushing lower, and it's already pushed actually past Columbia. So people are already buying, land out past Columbia. I see people looking, like, on the Alabama-Tennessee border, which was like a no man's land.
Yeah, but it's happening now.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think you're right. I think the challenge now is a lot of companies have reversed course on it, and it's like back to work, right? That's that was the big theme in 24 and now 25 too, is like back to the office. Like, we're done with this remote stuff.
Yeah.
But not everybody. So I think it just depends on the industry and things like that. So I still think that people will look for these smaller towns that are more affordable.
Yeah. The other thing that I feel like might be coming back just based on some administrative policy is manufacturing. And so that might also push some stuff back into small towns. So anyway, it's all very interesting to sort of talk about. But I mean, if I'm a real estate agent, I'm probably taking some time to familiarize myself with the intricacies of the small town as people come to you. And as people come to me now to purchase homes, usually there is a mismatch in terms of like, hey, here's what I want to buy. And I'm like, okay, well, you can buy that, but it isn't going to be where you thought.
I run into that daily.
Yeah.
Somebody reaches out, pre-approval. Hey, I want to buy a $600,000 house. Well, we can get pre-approved for $350,000.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, what? $350,000?
Yeah. I know it's crazy. So that has changed, but I think that'll, it's all, I don't think it's going to kill home sales. That's not what we're saying at all. What I think is you might have to change your approach in terms of familiarizing yourself with some areas that have more affordable housing.
Yeah. And, I guess generationally, people are going to have to be okay with, the home builders are probably going to have to build some more affordable options because, right now we're, especially in Franklin and things like that, we're hyper focused on this like $1.25 to $1.75 million price range.
Sure.
So maybe some of these neighborhoods are going to have to be dedicated to the $500,000-$600,000 price range. I don't know. But I think generationally, people are going to have to be okay with their first house being kind of a little bit on the smaller side.
A little more modest. Yeah. It's not a big, I just think about this. It's like, again, the house that I grew up in, I mean, and I don't have a big house. Okay. It's good size. It fits my family of 6 or whatever, but it's not like a mansion or anything. But I think about, where I grew up and in Sherman, Texas, and my aunt's house was the biggest house that we went to. It's like, that's where we did all our Christmas parties and all that stuff. Well, that house isn't as big as the house that I have now.
Yeah.
Right. And so it just, people generally speaking are living in bigger houses for sure. But I do think about that, and there might be an adjustment in terms of expectation as home buyers enter the market.
Yeah. I do feel like it's coming back the other way. So what I mean by that is like the baby boomers and the X's like us, I don't like to put people in buckets, but
yeah.
Anyway, so, working really hard, trying to earn everything they get, and, happy to get whatever they get.
Sure.
And then, you saw a millennial generation move into like expecting more for less. Like, what do you mean I'm not getting promoted? Well, you've only been here a year. and then, next generations moved along, and I feel like they're coming back the other way where it's like, hey, I don't have to make a ton of money. I don't have to have a big house and a nice car. I just want to have a comfortable living.
Yeah, exactly.
So it does seem like that's the trajectory.
Yeah. And the other thing that next generation is like, I want to travel more.
Yeah.
Right. Which, I mean, I don't know about you. I didn't even get on a plane until I was 17 years old, and I was going to boot camp.
We didn't have any money. So.
Like a plane ride was just outside of the realm of possibility. Yeah. Anyway. Okay. The other thing that I want to talk about is just sort of market turmoil and tariffs, and then what we're seeing. And so when we're recording this is the day after the State of the Union address. What happened yesterday is tariffs were imposed at midnight the night before. So we have all of this stuff sort of happening in the marketplace that's causing turmoil, and it seems like everybody has pushed pause on their home search. However, we've seen mortgage applications increase this past weekend, but it feels like it had been on pause until then. So,
it was.
We just need to talk about volatility and what you perceive might be a possibility. I've heard some people say, hey, the winter, we're in the winter right now, and the summer's not going to be a while. I hear some people go, hey, interest rates are trending down, get ready for a boom. I mean, what's your sense of where things are going?
Last couple of weeks to a month have been great.
Okay.
Everything's been kind of trending the right direction. Everything was looking, healthy, solid. Today, being March 5th, was kind of a bloodbath so far. I think it had a lot to do, a lot of people say it has a lot to do with tariffs. But again, like the language around it and then how tough the stance is will dictate how we go from here. So like if the tariffs aren't what people perceive them to be right now, then I think it'll soften up. But honestly, I think to answer your question, over the next 3 months, I think things are going to they'll probably settle around the mid 6s, if I had to guess. Okay. So we were up over 7, in the early part of 25, and then we kind of trended down to like 6.6, 6.7, somewhere around there. And then we had today, but like I think we'll probably settle around the mid 5s going into the summer. Maybe it trends a little bit lower from there. But hey, look, mid 6s, you're within a stone's throw from a 5. Like if you go FHA and you get some closing costs from the seller, you're going to be in the 5s.
That's right.
Or, let's say you do a temporary buy down, a 1.0 or something like that, you're in the 5s. Like, so, I mean, we're really close to what I think opens the floodgates a bit. Because, dropping 1% is going to add 500,000 buyers to the market.
Yeah. And where I think the opportunity really is for this particular market is first-time home buyers. It's like, guys, look, buy a condo, buy a condo or smaller house when you can, let that thing increase in value. That entry point is always going to be attractive.
I posted this the other day, for the first time since 2009, over 50% of the buyers were first-time home buyers.
I knew it.
Over 50%.
Yeah.
So that's huge.
That's huge.
And those are new home buyers. Yeah. What I mean by that is like they're new to market as far as like opportunities for agents, opportunities for mortgage brokers, opportunities for builders, for whomever. Like these are new entries into our space.
We've been ringing this bell for a year. It's like, hey, look, this is where people are. And this is before the percentages rolled in. It's like, we were like, hey, first time home buyers are where it's at. And so if you're a real estate agent, you need to be sort of putting your marketing in that bucket, in that first time home buyer bucket. So education and marketing towards first time home buyers would be my suggestion. Okay, anything else? I think we covered everything. I think we solved all the problems.
Yeah, it's all.
If everybody would just listen to us, it'd be great.
Put a bow on it.
Okay, great. All right, well, guys, thank you for joining us this week. We will see you next week. Make sure to like and subscribe. See you soon.
Bye.